You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Doctor, tell me true. What's a heart like mine supposed to do?
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So usually this time of year, I am doing the dance. Kids are going back to school. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. When my kids were younger, it was a very, very happy time. You know, getting my kids to go to school. I wouldn't even stop the car. I'm like, get the hell out. You know, I love you, mommy. I go, yeah, get out, go to school. Leave me alone. It was getting those kids back to school, best time of year. I loved school, so I couldn't wait, to get back to school, and then getting back to school supplies. You know, I wore a lot of hand-me-downs, but I don't blame my son. I have one son always got the new clothes, and the other son wore the hand-me-downs. But even with me, but the new shoes, and the new backpack, and those folders, and the Trapper Keepers, and things like that. I loved back to school. But just because the parents are happy doesn't mean the kids are on the same page. All right. There's a few things you need to start doing now. And this is why we're talking about it now. News 3 interviewed me on this, and I was very, very glad they reminded me, because I always like to give you guys this talk a week or two before school starts. There is a very good chance that your child has been staying up later than they usually do and sleeping in more, which means if you need to get their tushies up at 6:30 a.m. in, next Monday or 2 Mondays from now, that could be a problem. So what you want to do is a week or two prior, start getting them on that schedule where you start putting them to bed earlier, waking them up a little earlier, and start getting them on that schedule. Otherwise, the first day or two, it's going to be, mayhem. Make sure you go shopping and get some healthy food for breakfast. None of this, you're going to see a bunch of sales on Lucky Charms, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cocoa Krispies. Mind you, those are tasty. Worst thing for your child for a solid breakfast. You want to make sure that child gets some nutrition, vitamin C. So I would start looking at your orange juice and fruit products and things like that. Don't get anything perishable yet if you don't need it for a week or two. Honestly, you should be giving the kids that breakfast now. So maybe go shopping and make sure they have that. Even though you're doing the dance, going, all right, kids are back at school, you're doing the dance. Some of your kids might be thinking of the bullies. They might be stressing hard. So have the conversations with them, because they're going to watch you dance and all that, and they aren't going to want to say something, especially since a lot of us grew up with parents where you're like, I'm sick. You need to be dead if you're going to miss school. So no, you're going to school. And so a lot of kids couldn't feel like they could talk to their parents about that. You need to make sure they can talk to you. Yeah. And say, look, what do you think about school starting? Are you excited about school, or do you prefer, do you wish summer lasts longer? Oh, I wish summer was longer. Okay, good. Why? Yeah. Is it because you love your mama? Is it that, school isn't fun? Is there, try to slowly start teasing out, why do you, like summer more than school? Why? Well, it's because this happens, and then this happens, and this happens, and they might not tell you everything, but start getting that line of communication. Because school was always rough. I loved school, even despite the bullies, but that's because I didn't want to be home. So my hatred of being home was so much that I take the bullies at school. But for other kids, they'd rather be safe at home. So talk to them about why they feel safer. Speaking of safety, you better remind them about stranger danger. If your kids are walking to the bus stop and they're going to be, not under your purview, under your eye of mortal, going to be out there, and talk to them about stranger danger. Talk to them about, somebody saying, hi, the bus driver said that we're supposed to take you. Now, come on in. Talk to them about trafficking, things like that, and what to watch out for. There was, I think it was almost 15, 20 years ago, where there were child kidnappers dressed as cops. And so the cop would tell the kid to come here. The kid's like, what's a cop? And it wasn't a real cop. So you need to talk to them about who, they should go to mommy. They should, if you see something and it doesn't seem right, or go to a teacher that you know. If the child doesn't feel safe with the bus stop, then you want to find alternative ways. Bus drivers are awesome, especially my local bus drivers. And luckily now you don't have to walk a half a mile to get to your bus stop. Now it's just a few blocks. So they really have made it easier for kids, and they put the bus stops in open areas and, some of them are near busy streets, but make sure the kids are aware that a bully could push them into traffic. That being said, for those of you adults going, oh gosh, are you talking about now school zones? Yeah, there's going to be school zones. Okay, so if you've been speeding down your neighborhood, realize that school is starting soon. Nobody ever knows when school starts. I think in my neck of the woods is August 10th. Be prepared that, you're going to have to slow down. But also understand that kids could be just as sick in the head as these people on the New York subway, pushing people in front of moving trains. So you want to be aware that there could be some really, really bad, sick kids pushing, a kid into your path of the car. So just drive very, very slow. You just don't know. Or a kid missing the bus. Teachers. The biggest thing I hear from teachers, 9 months of the year, is they can't get off work to go to the doctor. And the doctors aren't open on the weekends. So that's why I always had weekend hours, because it was for my teachers. So my teachers could come in and get their physicals and do what they need to do. So for those of you teachers going, all right, I might need my blood pressure medicine refill. I might need my diabetes medicine refill. You might want to think about that now before the school season. Parents and sports physicals. Every year I have parents with only 20 minutes notice, where the deadline is 20 minutes away, where they have to turn in a sports physical. Now, luckily, I had same day appointments when I had my clinic, but the average doctor doesn't, which means if your kid needs a sports physical and you haven't done it yet, you could be really, really screwed, and that child can't start their sport. So if any of you double check the paperwork on the packet they gave you. See, I get it. I'm the type of parent where it's like, okay, if I don't have to worry about it till August or September, I'll think about it. But school doesn't start in September anymore. It starts in early August. So get that stuff done now. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
1-877 Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X, Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So I don't know if the media is making it a bigger deal than it is or really is a bigger deal, but Bernie Sanders has been around for a very, very long time. And people have been looking at his ideas as you're out of your mind. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And Bernie Sanders ends up nearing the end of his career. Don't know how much longer he's going to continue to be a senator. I tell you, though, he's got a lot of grit. But finally, after multiple decades, candidates that he's endorsing are winning. And these candidates call themselves the Democratic Socialists of America. Socialists should really have their own party. Bernie Sanders never really, took on the basic moderate Democratic ideals, but he still considered himself a Democrat, even though the Hillary Clinton campaign did him in really badly. And a lot of people felt bad for Bernie Sanders. And even though he was caught with some hypocrisy, like wearing a mask all over the place, and then as soon as he could do a photo op with Biden, he takes down the mask. And we need to get rid of the oligarchy and millionaires and all that, but this guy's got money too. But people felt like, for being an older guy and young people kind of listening to him, he has some remarkable political savvy. Am I a fan of his? No. Would I vote for Bernie Sanders? No. But he's now starting to be looked upon as the godfather of American socialism, which I really don't know if I would really want that reputation. But for his standards, this is probably one of the big successes he's ever achieved. These Democratic socialists that are now asking for everything and the sun, not speaking out against Hamas, not speaking out against the atrocities that happened to Israel, claiming that Israel is just randomly and massively killing Arabs and Muslims and any other BS that they're coming up with. And you have still very powerful, moderate, common sense Democrats. And so Van Jones speaks up, and he was one of the first ones that finally got the Democrats to agree that, yeah, we really made a mistake with Biden and having him run a second term. Because I was watching CNN during the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And finally, Van Jones is like, look, this isn't working. And I think it's because you have individuals that are just like George Clooney. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to go down with the ship. I have my own reputation to protect, and I don't want people thinking I'm blind or dumb or a part of a conspiracy. And so you have very, very smart individuals in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party that are like, look, I'm going to call it like I see it. And I am not going to just go with the flow. And so Van Jones says that now his phone has been blowing up with praise on all sides because he's kind of speaking out against the DSA. So on his social media platform X, he said that some people in groups like the Democratic Socialists of America are pushing an agenda far outside left-wing positions like Medicare for all and criminal justice reform. He says supporting Hamas is not progressive. No police, no prisons, no borders is not progressive. Celebrating the murder of Israeli civilians is not progressive. He said these ideas are regressive. And he was on CNN's Out Front with Aaron Burnett. And, he says people on both sides, Democrats, Republicans are calling him, saying what everybody's been saying behind the scenes, that this stuff is going too far. He says, I am a progressive Democrat. You want to talk about prison reform? I've done it as well as anybody. Republican Democrats in the South with Trump, I've done prison reform. He's never said have no prisons. He says, I've never said have no prisons. He said, where are you going to put the Klan? I've done police reform. I never said no police. Where are you going to put the pedophiles? Who's going to grab the pedophiles? And so, I can't stand when I hear, people people just completely throwing everybody into one group. But that's kind of what the Democratic Socialists want to do. The Democratic Socialists want to act like they are the Democrat. They Trojan horse their way into this party. Are they going to hold multiple seats? No. Moderate Democrats are still the majority of the Democrat Party. But they're getting into very lucrative positions. You have one who is now the mayor of New York City. And it's concerning a lot of people. You become mayor of New York City, that's a great stepping stone for you to then run for president or become attorney general or become whatever. And so it's a concern. And, the one thing that has been baffling me is, where are the Democrats, the common sense, smart Democrats, and why aren't they saying it like it is? Well, remember, politicians, the primary job of a politician, you and I would think, is to represent your population base and your constituents. But it's not. The primary job that these politicians are doing is to save their own neck. It's to get reelected or to have the party get elected. And so there's a lot of Democrats in there, like Senator Elizabeth Warren going, this side has momentum, so I'm going to jump to this side. Now, what's Chuck Schumer doing? Why aren't they speaking out? I mean, Chuck Schumer's Jewish, for crying out loud. Really? And you're going to let all this anti-Israel, all these lies fly? What's going on here? And so seeing, the smart people have the guts. See, the problem is there's a lot of people that think things and they won't say it. They're so afraid of getting canceled. They're so afraid of social media. They're so afraid of being out there. And the problem is you stay quiet, Hitler comes back. You can't stay quiet. Okay? I mean, you need to call, like you said, you need to educate. And not with lies. And there's a lot of BS out there on social media. But like George Clooney, if he's like, look, I was a fan of Joe Biden, but this isn't the Joe Biden that's represented us for 40 years. He's I don't think this is going to work. And George Clooney probably did that because he's like, wait a second, I am now on stage. I'm trying to raise money for this man. I'm going to look stupid. And I got to think about myself. And so the selfishness is what's going to drive who wins, where this country goes. If people feel that they don't have a proper standard of care, well, because they can't feed their families, they don't have a roof over their head, yeah, and they have every right to complain. But if we have individuals who are complaining because they can't get the new iPhone or their Wi-Fi cost is going up, they have a home that they're living in, they have a car, they have their Netflix, they have their Wi-Fi, they have their iPhone, but they can't upgrade because now they have to save money. Come on now. Are you really, that destitute? I see your nails are done, your eyelashes are done, your hair is done. I see your car. So it's for some people it's very relative. But we need individuals who are smart and realizing, look, okay, I don't want to look like an idiot. And the reason why is you saw all these people look like idiots. Look at all the videos now. People going, I never saw Biden have any issues. I never saw. They look like it. They look like you're either an idiot or you're lying. The doctors, everybody asks, what were the doctors thinking? Well, it's very simple. The medical board can investigate. If they are idiots, then they're dangerous to other patients. And then the medical board needs to suspend their license. If, however, they go, no, I really did want to run an MRI of the brain. I wanted to check his prostate. I was worried about metastatic disease. I was worried about cognitive dysfunction. But he wouldn't let me. Okay, well, then you have an AMA form, hopefully, and then you're cleared. So everybody's looking at people who surrounded the Biden administration as either dumb or lying. And I don't think the average smart Democrat or Republican wants to have that reputation. They don't want to, people think because they're getting caught on lies on video. You get caught in one lie, people will always think you're a liar. So good for Van Jones going, wait a second, some of these things are really, stupid. They're not realistic what they want. And that doesn't represent the Democratic Party. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, Fine Farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. 1-877 Doc Dolly. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. So, I've been at the airport a lot recently, and I hear people talking and whispering to each other, going, "Oh, I have my pot in my bag." And there's been a lot of confusion as to what you're allowed to bring in terms of marijuana. Now, marijuana is still illegal from a federal standpoint, but since multiple states have medical marijuana and recreational marijuana laws, domestic flights, it's a little bit easier in terms of your taking your medical marijuana. TSA screening procedures, according to the Transportation Secretary Administration website, says they are focused on security and are designed to detect potential threats to aviation and passengers. Accordingly, TSA security officers do not search for illegal drugs. But if any illegal substance or evidence of criminal activity is discovered during screening, TSA will refer the matter to a law enforcement officer. Now, according to Mendelbaum Barrett PC, they say that TSA, and again, I would double check everything, but effective April 22nd of this year, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche issued an order placing certain state-regulated and FDA-approved marijuana products into Schedule 3 under federal law, which would help it not be Schedule 1. Schedule 1 are really, really bad drugs. Schedule 3 is kind of like Lortab. So it didn't legalize marijuana, didn't necessarily remove all cannabis from Schedule 1 status, but it did loosen things, especially for medical marijuana, like Epidiolex, Marinol, Syndros, Sesamet. So certain state-authorized medical cannabis products could also now be downgraded, but recreational marijuana is still considered a Schedule 1. So we don't have a lot of, shall we say, direct, distinct guidance from the TSA. The TSA is not going to say you're good bringing marijuana on the plane. They can't, because marijuana is still illegal. But what they said is that rather, they say the TSA officers are not searching for illegal drugs. In fact, I think they omitted the word marijuana. I think marijuana used to be, we're not searching for marijuana. But if they find it, now they're just saying illegal drugs. So even the less writing, the less that's the fewer that's said, then the less, I guess, rules have to be followed from the TSA standpoint. You're just like, in court, the less you say, the less, things will be held against you. But interstate travel and domestic travel, still very iffy. In fact, some people will say, well, I have to have a medical marijuana card. I don't see that on the website. I think it's good to have. Have whatever documentation you need. If you do have a medical card or certification or dispensary receipts, I don't think it hurts to have those, because remember, you getting marijuana from somebody in an alley is a lot worse than you actually purchasing it at a legal, state allowed store. So I would, just to be safe, if you're going to be traveling with your medical cannabis or, recreational cannabis, double check with the TSA and understand that at any time, because it's still considered illegal, there could be an issue. But make sure you have whatever documentation you need from your doctor, from the cannabis store you got it from. If you grow your own, I know some states allow you to grow your own. Like you're allowed to have a plant or two. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're allowed to go interstate or do domestic flights. Now, the TSA is warning us about your international travel. Laws are different in other states. And look at what happened to Brittany Griner. I mean, she got thrown in jail because of her cannabis. And so even if American TSA workers are like, okay, honestly, with 365 million people in the U.S. and half of them probably using it, yeah, we got bigger fish to fry. We got to look for box cutters and guns and weapons and things like that. And I'm blown away at all that the TSA has to do. But these other countries, I mean, they have pretty strict laws. And if they don't want pot coming in, they don't want it coming in. And U.S. officials are reminding travelers that if you do bring cannabis products across international borders, that could really get you in trouble. In June 2026, Thailand introduced tougher penalties for travelers caught bringing cannabis across its borders. Violators can go to jail for 10 years, a fine of 500 Thai baht or $15,000, or both, according to the U.S. Embassy consulate in Thailand. Thailand decriminalized cannabis possession in 2022, but the importing of it remains illegal. Now, that being said, some of you go down to Mexico, you walk into the pharmacy, and you're able to get pain medications, Tramadol, Xanax, controlled substances that are legally sold over the counter in Mexico. These medications are legal in America. Why can't you bring them across the border? You can't. You cannot bring a controlled substance that you didn't get from a legitimate prescription over the border. Now, some of you will say, Dr. Dye, I did it all the time. I haven't gotten busted. Okay, you got lucky. But if you look at the laws, no. You can't be bringing Xanax, Tramadol, stuff you buy over the counter there. A non-prescription that you are importing into America, not allowed. Double check the rules. So we a lot of people they think international travel is more like going to Thailand or going to Europe. Okay, Mexico, Canada, that's international. And even though I'm sure many people have been very pleased with some of the flexibility, not everybody is flexible. Canada has relaxed their cannabis laws. But according to Jeffrey Hoffman, a New York-based cannabis attorney, he said cannabis is illegal. Bringing it, is generally illegal across the overwhelming majority. Bringing it to a different jurisdiction, you could become subject to their laws. Look at what happened. What was it in the Bahamas? Where 8 different Americans were arrested because they had, oh no, that was a different bust. There were, I think, 3 different Americans who had casings, bullet casings, shells in their bag. No bullet, no gun, but they didn't clean out their bag, and the casings put them in jail. I mean, that's, I think that was in the Bahamas. I have to look that up, or the Dominican Republic. So just research where you're going and understand. And the federal government, I think, knows that many people are bringing their marijuana through airport security checkpoints. But they're not in a position to say you can or can't, because marijuana is still considered illegal. Medical cannabis with your doctor prescription can allow you more flexibility. If you're getting marijuana from somebody's backyard, that's a problem. But if you're actually buying your marijuana, keep the receipts. Take pictures of the receipts. If you cannot access, I always recommend taking pictures even of your boarding pass, because if you don't access Wi-Fi or something happens, at least you have it on your phone. In fact, God forbid we get attacked. A cyber attack is going to happen first. So make sure you have copies, not even digital, paper copies of things, in case you need them. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did, and just maybe someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. I tell you, the World Cup and the controversies, it's crazy. But one of the latest things that kind of made headlines over the last few days was when Spain won the World Cup. President Donald Trump, who was integral in getting FIFA here and hosting FIFA, likes to stand with the victors. And again, he wants to be remembered and not written out of history or cropped out of history. Well, Spain, and I kind of get it, right? Wanted the team, the picture of the winning team, wanted a picture without Trump. Sadly, they cropped them out rather than just, okay, now we're going to take a picture of the team. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a party or I've been whatever, like, okay, now just family. Okay. So I'm like, fine, I'll stand over here. And they're like, no, Dahlia, get in here. You're family too. I never know when I get to be in the picture and when I don't. But Trump, as you've seen with, with multiple, sports that because he's a big sports enthusiast, he wants to be in the pictures. Yet now with all the AI and manipulation of photos, the team, especially Spain, who is not a fan of Trump because Trump has called them out on, their politics and, how they approached, NATO and supporting what's going on with the Iran war. The official account for Spain's National Football League shared the altered image. So they got Trump out of the photo, either by AI or cropping him out. And some photos, you still see his shoulder. On others, it almost looks like they just completely edited him out. And here's the thing. I think a picture with Trump is nice. But I understand if they just want a picture of the team. I get that. I mean, the team is the one that won. But it could have been done differently. Yeah, and I hate seeing this animosity and this BS that happens. But yeah, did Trump kind of want to stay in the picture probably a little longer than he needed to? Yes. And we know why. After his first term, which he did a lot of good in, the history books and the internet and all that started to change and crop him out and not mention things he did. And it ticked him off. And so he's figuring out ways where there could be a permanent link that isn't tainted by the haters. So, not the biggest deal, not the biggest news. But we know that Spain, even though the players met with them and were happy to meet with them, and they were, pretty grateful. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll move on with this. This next story, I am just blown away. You have a mom caught on video, and she is at a playground with her child, and her child looks like probably about 1.5 to 2 years old, and her name is Shiloh Hendricks, and she was at a park in Rochester, Minnesota. She gets mad at an autistic black child who went into, I believe, her bag and took the kid's applesauce. Now, if you're a mom, you understand that kids do things. And if I see another kid touch something of my kids, grab them, like, no, sorry, that's ours. They don't understand, especially if it's an autistic child. You'd be really, really nice about it. You let them know that there's an error. You don't slap them. God, I'm of the age group where you would get smacked by other parents. They would smack your hand. They would smack you beside the head. No. No, we don't do that anymore because that's assault. You cannot touch another person's kid. But you could say, oh, no. But if the child's hungry, you give it to them. And when kids would come up to me in a park and they wanted something, I'd ask the parents, is it okay? Apparently this mom didn't act that way. Instead, she called the young black boy the N-word. Now, you see on the video, somebody, after I guess this happens, get her on video and then get her to admit she did it. And the viral exchange looks at her getting mad at the person videotaping, saying, you just called this kid this. And, he's like, you can't use that word. And then she uses that word to the person filming. And then he still talks to her, gets her to admit that he called. She's like, why did you call the boy that? And she's like, because he took my kid's applesauce. Completely inappropriate that she did that. But he got her to admit it on videotape. Well, now she is looking at jail time. So she has pleaded not guilty. She appeared on Monday in Olmsted County District Court. Jury selection got underway for her trial. The jury is going to decide if her behavior was unlawful likely to cause violence, or if her words were protected under the First Amendment. Just devastating to think that a little black boy could be called such a horrible slur when he didn't know what he was doing. On the other end, was that enough to incite violence? Is that enough? I mean, does that warrant her going to jail? So, since I don't believe there were other, the only witness I think that was there was the one who I think was videotaping. I'm not sure, but the issue I have is I've seen parents be ridiculous when it comes to other people's kids, and parents are getting a bad rap because of moms like this. Her child doesn't care whether the applesauce is there or not. Somebody reaching for the applesauce. Maybe the child was hungry. Maybe it was, but for her to go after this kid and use such horrible language, what's wrong with this mom? Let's say a child was trying to hit your kid. I mean, I've had kids bully my kid. I get my kid away. I tell the kid no. I go to the parent and I say, look at what's going on. And parent gets involved. Still, you don't need to go there where she went. You never need to. If a kid is hurting your kid, you can pull him off your kid. Absolutely. You have a right to protect your child, but you don't have a right to go after that child. You have a right to the defense. You can't, as an adult, go after and go on the offense, whether it's verbally or physically. But this mom apparently doesn't care. See, we moms or parents or dads, but moms have this maternal instinct where, for me, I love all kids. And, you'll hear people go, oh, my God, did you look at her baby? The baby's ugly looking. The baby's whatever. I think the baby's gorgeous. Just like little pets. If it doesn't matter. With that maternal instinct, you know that you need to love that baby. You need to love that child. You need to, if a child is in trouble, if a child is hungry, the way we are instinctive is, we'll help any child. And the reason why we have that instinct is in the olden days, you'd have to be a nursemaid sometimes. If you were lucky enough to have breast milk and another mother couldn't, you don't want that baby to die. So you would feed that baby. I mean, that was just what you did. And you didn't give it another thought. So to see somebody like that, you just kind of wonder, what kind of a parent she is. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.